Then the transistor came along, and I remember that day because there was a big box of transistors and we all nicked them, went back to our benches, and I remember that day, we talked about it since, at 5 o'clock, which is the day, it's the time people normally went home. There's only a trickle of people went home. Everybody was working in the labs. And the trickle of people that went home came back after they had their supper, and the labs were just full. And they stayed full for days, and people never went home for days and days on end. And you know, we found transistors, how to make them oscillate, amplify, do all sorts of things. Then a couple of months later, there was a new little thing with 2 transistors in it. And now,
no?
4 billion, as you said.
Oh yes, easily.
That's right.
Cost you 30 quid.
It's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. When you think of the valves, they had a heater in them, which typically was 6.3 volts, 0.3 of an amp, which is, you know, watts, a watt or something like that. 2 watts, just on the heater. The power supply was 300 volts. The power supplies were enormous. The valves were sticking up like that all over the place. And the whole bloody thing had to be taken apart on one chip. Oh yes, mind you, we did make a computer. We had computers back in the old days, like, let's go to 1940, before I joined, there were computers. And it was a very good computer. I mean, every time a signal came, this wheel turned round 1 revolution, and it turned another one 1/10 of a revolution. So this one went around, and then went round once, and this one went around, and then went round once. And this was as invented, I think, in 1870.
Right, Mr. Babbage.
And that was actually used on guns. But by the time they'd got the answer out, the aircraft dropped his bombs and gone home. And I do remember a computer being made near one of the spurs near me, which took up 6 times the size of this room. It had mercury baths in it and all sorts of things.
Mercury baths?
A mercury bath, it was some put a signal in to delay it before it got to the other end, yeah.
Oh, right.
It probably had a memory, you know, a really good memory, like 1K or something. I don't remember that. That was unbelievable. It was, you know, the idea was in it must have been 1944, I was still busy working research for the capitalist West to beat Germany. And then I met, she was to become my wife. She was in fact a different enemy. She was a Trotskyist. And in Russia there was a great enmity between Leninists and Trotskyists, who believed in there were 2 different ways of accomplishing the desired results of the revolution. I can't remember what the 2 ways were now, but anyway, they were bitter enemies. But that's how I met, at rival political meetings. I had a meeting over there, and she had a meeting over there, so we met. And eventually we were married, and I was really the first toy boy. She was 13 years older than me, from a place called Kinlochleven in Scotland. Okay, that was fine. The marriage went on for 50 years. But we had soon after we got married, we had a son, Gregor, who died when he was 6 days old. And then later on, we have the daughter, who's now living in London, Alison. Right, that's that. One of the interesting things that emerged from this was, sometime, must have been 1958 maybe, something that sort of year, we went up to my wife's house, home, in Kinlochleven, in the Highlands of Scotland, and where her family lived. And her father, trying to do something for me, went up into the loft and came down with something which he gave me, and it was a piano accordion. So I took it home, and I went to the local shop when we got back and found a book on how to play the piano accordion in 12 lessons. I used to go down to the shed at the bottom of the garden and play the accordion. I learned what all the things were, what do, re, mi was, and what a crotchet was, and what a quaver was. Then after a while I decided I didn't really like the accordion, I wanted some other instrument. I like music. So I went to the local shop and I bought a clarinet. And I started playing this at home and during the lunch times at work. You just stayed at work and you had a sandwich or went to the canteen. And then I used to spend half an hour playing the clarinet. And one day another bloke came in and said, hi, can I, sounds good, what about me joining you? He played the clarinet as well. His name was Jeff Wright. You know. You don't know Jeff Wright. And then began, so we used to play for half an hour every day, and eventually we took sandwiches and used to eat them before we finished work at 1 o'clock. So it gave us a whole hour playing. And actually it was a classic year. We played it for about a year, every day. And people go back over the years, they've mentioned it to me, hearing us playing. And we played Bach, and we played Mozart. And we went on, and it got better and better. And then one day somebody else said they'd like to join in, and then somebody else said they'd like to join in. And eventually we found ourselves with a trumpeter from the workshops, Eric, a drummer, and a bloke who played the piano. So then, sounded like a dance band, except that we didn't want two clarinets. So Jeff produced his alto saxophone, I bought a tenor saxophone, and we had a 5-piece band. We used to rehearse in one of the halls in RSRE. And it got on very well. Jeff used to arrange music for 5. I used to go to London quite a bit, and I used to go to the music shops and buy arrangements for 5-piece bands. And then one day somebody came along and said, we're some organisation, I can't remember what it was, and we're having a meeting, having a thing in the Territorial Hall at Barnards Green. Could you supply a dance band? Well, yes, we could, yes. So then began a period, about a month's time or 3 weeks' time we had. Eric made the stands. The initials are put on them. It decided that I seemed to be the bloke most occupied. It was called the Leo Damon 5. Jeff wrote a lot more music. I made the loudspeaker set up to announce things. And we went along and we played our first gig. The first half wasn't very good. In the interval we had a drink. And the second half got better. And then it went on and on and on, doing 2 and 3, 2 gigs a week, one every Friday night, maybe Saturday nights as well. Playing at the Winter Gardens, town halls, Worcester Town Hall, Evesham Town Hall, as far as Hereford. And eventually people wanted bigger bands, that became a 7-piece. And eventually we finished up in the Winter Gardens with a 12-piece band. And it was absolutely unbelievable, you know, saxophone, just, you know, one of the great bands, people, the saxophones, I used to outstand. The saxophones used to go bum, 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 and all stand up together, you know. And we'd sit down, and the trumpets and trombone would stand up. It was a 12-piece band. And then after a while, it sort of, people didn't exist after that, but we're not about 20 years.
Do you have any recordings?
I've got some pictures, I don't know where they are. But no sound recordings, no. That is incredible, isn't it?
All that music and
I don't think people thought about it so much then. I don't know. But no, I don't. Never made any recordings. Good God, I could just take them and record there and just switch it on. Never even occurred to me. I'm so busy. It's so busy setting up things.